think your watch and how you carry yourself, the car you drive, it could potentially be why some people want to be business partners with you or get you deals. I know my friend bought a Corvette thinking like I'll likely get some more deals out of this. So as you start making more money and like I got my first house, I think once that money comes in, I get less and less worried about like what's on my wrist.
Welcome to the Modern Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Giordani. Special guest today, my boy Jared. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, dude? Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Of course, man. I think we should get into some, I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of real estate stuff, maybe some solar stuff, some sales.
Yes.
We've known each other. You've been in the real estate industry for a long time. So I would love to give some stuff that the listeners, if they are in real estate, they want to get into real estate, some like tactical ways to either get more business if it's a realtor listening, or we could talk about the market a little bit and see kind of like what you're seeing for the everyday buyer or seller that's looking to get into the market.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about how you got started in the industry.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever really said this story. So way back when, I used to be a photographer, and one of my buddies was a realtor, and so I was taking photos for Airbnb, just of their listings, and he saw those, and he hit me up. He's like, hey, you can come take photos of my listings for me. And at one of those photo shoots, I was kind of asking him about the industry and how much he makes. I was like, dude, I'm on the wrong side of this. Like, I'm making like $200 taking these photos. He's making 20 grand. I'm like, dude, I got to get that started. And so he gave me the whole schooling thing, and then helped me get through the courses, helped me take the test. I didn't end up at his brokerage, but he did help me get started. And he sadly passed away a couple years ago. Rest in peace to Stefan. Never really tell that story, but yeah, my buddy Stefan helped me get into it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And what years was this?
I got started in 2017, which I think was a great time. I think people getting started now, it's like they have the law change with the NAR lawsuit. The market's a little funky. 2017, people were starting to see equity in their home again. And so it's like, okay, like there's buyers, there's sellers, like stuff is moving. So yeah, back in 2017.
I think it's interesting. I actually think the opposite. I think getting into the market when it's actually tougher because you don't know anything. So like someone starting out with these new rules, like they don't know anything. So it becomes the norm. Like right now, I think for like you or I being in real estate, like these new rules that are changing, I think it becomes challenging of how do you maneuver the market, what's going to change, what conversations you're going to have with buyers regarding commission and sellers regarding commission. But someone brand new, like fresh, brand new that just got their license, they're going to have to just train on what's current.
Yeah, very true. I think you just have to learn how to transition and keep up with the market if you're currently in it. And I think that's just a mindset thing. I think a lot of people are nervous. I think commissions in California were always pretty transparent, so I don't think we're going to have to change a whole bunch other than sign a couple extra documents. But you're right. I do think people that are just getting into it, like if you're getting licensed this month, you're going to have to do what we're all learning to have to do. Right. So I think they'll be fine. I do think some people are going to get weeded out. I hope I'm not one of them. But I'm curious to see where these changes go for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people are going to get weeded out. This market's challenging. It's very challenging, especially like on your side of things from a realtor's perspective. I remember when I got into real estate in 2009, the market was, we just went through a recession.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was 18. And I didn't even know like what is a recession? Like what is this? And I had no idea. Didn't understand anything. So like I was going through short sales and foreclosures and all these different things, and I didn't know any better. So I was like figuring it out, but it was the hardest time to be in real estate. And so I think anyone starting fresh now, it's just going to make them very gritty. And anyone moving forward, like that's had their license for a long period of time, that makes it through this, just shows how tough you are.
Yeah, and I think you're almost lucky in a sense because, nothing great comes from people who just had like a super easy life, you know? And so same thing with business. You started in 09, 08, 09 was probably like, who the hell is going to get into real estate now? And then you took all those lessons that you learned from 09 to 2017 when people were negative in regards to equity. And then, you got to chill for a little bit when it got easier. Yeah. And then now it's like, okay, maybe another transitional period. I think if anything, I'm just trying to say like, it's probably a blessing you went through such a tough market to start.
For sure. What so what's some like let's talk about some tactical advice for like you being a realtor, getting business in today's market.
Yeah, I think, dude, I I think I'm an interesting case because you could always cold call, you could always door knock, you could hold open houses. I've done all of it. I've door knocked, I've cold called, I do social media, and if I don't like something, I'm just not going to do it. So I try to have the mindset of I want to work with people that really want to work with me, and those have been the best transactions and kind of all I've done. And so the experience has been very good in regards to that. So I don't really venture out into the ones where it's like I have to cold call and like force a relationship, you know? But to answer your question, I have had success with social media, referrals, and then like more outbound, I do open houses. And that's where like if I really need to get a deal, I'm gonna go do open houses.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like people should I love what you said there because people think they need to do everything. Right? Like when they've been in the business, like I remember I used to get calls all the time and like, hey, what's working right now? Right. But what's working now for you may not work for someone else. Right. And you can do consistently, if you consistently did open houses, you can have a 6 or 7 figure real estate career like very easily. Right. If you consistently made cold calls and that was all you did, you can consistently have a 6 or 7 figure career. Mm-hmm. If you consistently just did direct mail, you can very easily consistently do 6 or 7 figures. Right. So like you don't have to do all of those in order to have a massive business.
Right.
So I think honing in, I love that you like were self-aware and you're like, hey, this is just what I like. This is what works for me. And let's go to town.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's just a personality thing. Not everyone's going to want to do what I do, but I also sell solar and that's very outbound. And so if real estate slows down, I'm not the type of person to sit at home. I know I'm not going to make cold calls or go door knock for real estate. So I'm going to do something. And I have something else that I can go sell if I need to. But I think if you're not going to take that route of having essentially 2 jobs, then you might have to do a few more things that you dislike doing.
Sure. Yeah. And you get better. I mean, once you start doing it, I remember when I was a cold caller.
Were you?
Yeah, big time cold caller.
Props. It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. So I remember you know Nathan, right? Nathan Wood next door in New Venture.
No.
Okay. So I remember his parents invested with me for a long time. We did flips together. And he came and shadowed me for a day. And he just watched me bang the phones all day long. And he's like, dude, I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know how you talk to these people all day long. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was saying.
Yeah.
But like just doing the conversations and repetitiveness over and over and over again, you eventually get good at it and you start gaining sales and momentum from it. But I wasn't the person, I didn't love doing open houses and setting up signs and wasting my weekends and doing all that stuff. But like I said, I agree with you. I think being diversified is important. I mean, I have to be diversified in my business currently for sure.
Yeah.
Because one channel will work 1 month and then like, so it's like, yeah.
You're on a different level though. I think if you're just keeping it about real estate, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as you have to kind of hone in on one thing that really works and try to compound on that. Because if you're trying cold calling, door knocking, social media, like even just social media gets tiring, as you know. So adding 4 other things is going to be difficult. I would say just try to find one thing that you kind of enjoy and run with that.
Yeah. I think you can get good at it too. Like in the beginning, do that one thing a lot, get good at it, and then you can start adding in other things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then you're like not a master, but you excelled at the one, and you add in the other one that you suck in, and then you try to get good at that one where you still have this one going, and then you can slowly add these building blocks.
Yeah, I would say you don't want to diversify at first. I think everyone starts with shiny object syndrome, but everything looks good when someone else does it. Like someone gets a deal from cold calling, you're like, I'm going to do that. And then you see the other agent on Instagram, like, I got my deals from Instagram. She's like, oh, I'm just going to do Instagram today. Like, you have to do something and you have to do it consistently. And then once that works and there's a system, then add some more.
For sure. So when I was a realtor, I didn't own my own house. And I didn't buy my own house until after I got out of real estate sales. And being my own, going through that process on my own after I was out of real estate was a very interesting experience. And you just bought your first house.
Yeah.
So being your own buyer. Was it a different experience than what you like have been teaching your buyers?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be twofold because to answer your question directly, not really. It was agents always say like buy your home so you can know what your clients go through. I went through exactly what I tell people they're going to go through. I think you add the emotions, but other than that, it was exactly what I was expecting. But it was very unique. I think yours was unique as well, but mine, I wasn't qualified when I bought it. So 2023, December, the last week is when I wrote my offer. You know, I would have to use 2022 and 2021. Yeah. I wrote the offer unqualified based on those 2 years. And then once January 2024 hit, now I'm qualified and I got to file my taxes immediately, you know? So there was some hurdles along the way. It was an interesting process because of like the risk I was willing to take with putting a deposit whilst not being qualified yet.
Right.
But I was willing to do it, and I knew like my protections, and we were able to get it done.
Yeah. Laws, legalities of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mine was unique too. I think I talked about it on your
Right.
podcast. I barely qualified for my house.
Yeah.
When I first did it. And I did it in a very unique way because it was my childhood house. So I put myself on title with my mom and then I refied it so I didn't have to put any money down, which was a hack in itself. But yeah.
Yeah, I think knowing the hacks in the industry is good because we can do them. I'm not going to tell a client, hey, write an offer unqualified and like we'll pray you get your deposit back. Like I was willing to lose it to try to get this home. Like I needed this house, you know?
Yeah. You'd never lose it either. I mean, everyone still has to sign a cancellation. And most likely you're going to, it wouldn't have been your fault anyways. So you're renting it out now?
Yeah, and I didn't want to tell you about this because I'm willing to get in the weeds. I'm not going to name names, but we're going through eviction process already. So I've owned the home for about 6 months, and eviction is happening to the current tenant in the room down the hall.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it's brutal, dude. Like I could put a smile on, and it is what it is. But like I'm going through it. Like, I'm on day 3.
Talking to them? Was it the girl or a girl?
It was a girl. I don't want to get too in the weeds again. I'm not going to name any names, but basically she had a new boyfriend. He was in trouble at work at Border Patrol, so I can't imagine he did something good. He's mid-divorce, and he basically squatted at my house for a whole week, and she didn't really go to work or anything, and so they were just there the whole time. And I told her, hey, there's too much energy in my house. Like, this needs to be, like, my safe space. It's yours, too. You're a tenant, but, like, we can't have random dudes I don't know just, like, living here all day. And then didn't really get handled. A second conversation happened. It got worse. And I just said, hey, you know, maybe this isn't a good fit. Kind of invited her to leave. But this is where I fucked up, and we can kind of get in the weeds on this part, is I didn't sign a lease because it was a friend. And so now we're just going through a bunch of legal loopholes trying to hopefully get her out, to be honest.
Let me know if you need an attorney referral.
Yeah, I already have one. And again, it's been a nightmare. I'm on day 3. And so it's like I'm waking up and my heart is just racing faster. Like it's been a tough few days for sure. But I paid $950 to get a letter put on my door for her to see. And I'm crossing my fingers. 30 days, I can re-rent it, dude.
Dude, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, I think it's like a different story when you own a rental and you have to evict those tenants. But the fact of like you going home to your own house and having your room rented out that you're just don't even feel safe in your own home. That's like...
Yeah, and I don't, to be honest. I don't like being a complainer, but it's about as bad as it can be in terms of like a scenario you can be put into, especially in the first year in your first home. So I'm trying to take it in stride, just do the legal loopholes as you have to, but it's tough, man. It is my home. It's my first one.
Right.
And like my buddy was like, dude, it's like you're a hostage in your own home.
I know.
So I know that's not the direction you're expecting. Like
No.
I definitely am like fucking stoked to have my first home. Like, dude, sometimes I'll have my morning coffee and just like stare at my house. I'm like, I did this, you know, but right now it's a little tough for sure.
Yeah. Damn, that sucks, bro. I'm so sorry you're going through
good.
that. That's very unique. I don't know that I've ever heard of like having to evict someone that you're living with, but
like you said, I would hope it would be something I don't live in. Like elsewhere, it's like you go through the loophole and it is what it is. But
there's not really a loophole right now. It's fucking a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you
go
offer
through
her
the
cash for keys or something.
which I did. Yeah, I did. I'm doing everything I can, you know. But I think lesson learned, you know, and maybe you can touch on this with some tips because I know you have rentals, but obviously sign a lease, you know, for one.
Right.
I was easy with no deposits. I did not do first and last. So now even if it's a friend, it's like I'm doing just by the book from now on.
Right.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
So.
Damn. Well, good experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on.
yeah.
Are you gonna re-rent the room out, or are you just gonna?
Yeah,
Just
so
the right way.
travel nurses is my new thing.
Nice.
So 3-month stays, and I mean, if they extend, sweet, but they should. More than likely, we'll go back home after 3 months. So that's my new jam.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was funny before we started the podcast. I was thinking, I just remembered. So when I was on your episode, like certain times you start thinking of things that you said at a time, and you're like, man, I don't know if I should have said that.
Yeah.
Or like I said that, and this isn't great advice. And I said something on your podcast that's awful advice.
That's corrected.
That I had said. You asked me if I budgeted or if I had a budget.
Oh, yeah.
And I said no. And it's funny that I think back to thinking about that conversation about not having a budget. And I don't care how much fucking money you make. A budget is very important. So I'm going to correct it now because I said that I didn't have a budget. And to be honest, I didn't have a budget. But owning a company, because since that what was that, like a year ago, I think I was on your podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my business is not completely different than what it was when we interviewed, like when I was on yours.
Yeah.
And, you know, thinking now to how like meticulously I have to track money every single month.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of your podcast episode when I said I didn't have a budget, and it cracks me up.
I think about that sentence like once a quarter, to be honest. Like it'll come around where I'm like, should I buy this? Should I not? And then it just pops in my head like Josh might without without thinking about it. So
balling on a budget.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad. I mean, do you budget now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you do because I think whatever level you're at, I mean, I think there's a huge distance between me and you right now, but I would like to get to where you're at, and I would like to think I'm going to budget and like be strategic, and you know, even though you probably don't have to.
Money is strategy.
Yeah.
And I think having money be a strategy, using it tactically is important, and a budget is a part of that.
Yeah.
So like, forget about the Rolexes and the cars and shit like that. But like, I'm talking like, you know, marketing, employees, advertising, you know, all of those things. If you're not doing things like that tactically with your money, you're never going to start making more money and it being a profitable, like if we're talking about business, a profitable business.
For sure. I don't know if we should just forget the Rolexes and the cars, but I mean, that's all you.
Well, it's funny because I like when I bought all of my, we're both into watches, but when I bought my watches, I definitely wasn't thinking in regards to budget, right? Like when you're going to go spend, you know, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a watch, you're not necessarily like, oh yeah, I should put this in my, you know, safe fund.
Yeah.
But the way I looked at it is that I had no debt, right?
Yeah.
Like I was still bringing in a lot of money, and at the time I didn't have employees and high overhead marketing, things like that. Now sometimes it's funny because I do look at the watches and think, is this something that's holding me back? And
interesting.
I look at everything now, like money, tactically, because my money is getting an ROI with ad spend. Yeah. So now I look at my watch, like, okay, I spent $43,000. That $43,000 my business would make me a 5 to 10x return.
Yeah. I mean, let's dive into that because I think your watch and how you carry yourself, the car you drive, it could potentially be why some people want to be business partners with you or get you deals. I know my friend bought a Corvette thinking like I'll likely get some more deals out of this. So maybe it's helping, maybe it's hurting. I mean, what are your thoughts so far?
No, I don't think it helps I think yes, it creates credibility, right? Mm-hmm. I do agree with that 100%. And cars are important too. I think even like when I was in real estate, like my dad always was like, yeah, you know, go buy an entry level Mercedes or BMW so that you can have a nice car to go show property in or whatever. And I do think that becomes important as you level up in a career. Now, like spending this kind of money, not really. Like you can my other one is probably just fine for like credibility purposes.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I've always wanted a Rolex. Like I think every kid grows up wanting a Lamborghini. You know, I mean, am I wrong? But as you start making more money, and like I got my first house, I think once that money comes in, I'm like, I kind of just want another house at this point. You know, like
That's where I'm at too.
I get less and less worried about like what's on my wrist. Like this is my most expensive watch at $800.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so yeah.
So what are like? Let's talk about financial goals. What's next?
Yeah. I mean, last year I had a good year, enough to buy my home, you know. So, I've always just wanted to outdo my previous year. I'm a little less worried about that right now, and just more so like I need to get some more doors. Like I want to invest in more syndications. Like I just want to keep spreading my money into real estate, and that's. I don't really have a goal as far as number of doors or money invested. I just know once it comes in, I want it to go back out.
How's it, by the way, because for those that don't know, Jared does solar and real estate. Do you want to talk a little bit about solar?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay,
honestly,
cool.
I love both. So let's get into it.
I'm actually not familiar. Like, obviously, I know what solar is.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things that you see, like sales trainings and things like that, is pretty gangster. Like with a lot of like the sales tactics and door to door and all of that. So I'd love to kind of like dive in on what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then like how the pay works and things like that.
Let's get into it. Cool. A lot of the solar industry, the recruiting and getting people to join your team is about pay. So I'll be open about, you know, what the checks could be and everything. And then I'm glad you said gangster, because a lot of people say sleazy, and like the comments on Instagram from solar people is not good, but it is door to door. So we get a lot of hate, but quite honestly, if I knock on your door, you let me in, I'm going to help you, you know? So it is sales. It's a little aggressive because we're hitting your door to try to come in and sell you on the spot. But again, at the end of the day, it's going to be a win-win. So,
right.
Yeah.
So what does it pay? So like, let's say you come to my door, we have a conversation. By the way, do you mind scripting it out? Like, would you
you want me to hit my script?
I want you to hit me like if you're knocking on my door right now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
We're just working on the smart grid update. I just need to talk to the homeowner here.
Okay, that's me.
Okay, cool. So I'm just following up. SDG&E, they sent this notice. Do you remember seeing this right here?
Uh-huh.
Cool. So it's just about their rate increase. As I'm sure you know, they're going up about 20% this year. All they sent us out here to do is see who's eligible for reduction. Mm-hmm. Do you know roughly what you're spending for power these days?
I'm not exactly sure.
Just like ballpark off the top of your head. I can't help you if it's below 100. Mm-hmm. Are you above 100, like 2 or 3?
Maybe like $300-400.
$300-400. Okay. And then are you trying to adhere to like time of use? Like try not to use your power from 4 to 9?
Not really.
Okay, no worries. So there's a few programs that can help. We're working on the PPA. It's essentially just California's no-cost solar. You have to qualify. If your home's pulling enough power, you could be eligible to get solar at no cost. We just need to see how much power you're using. Do you know how many kilowatts you used last month?
I don't even know what that is. So you just
no worries. Yeah. It's super simple. It's the third page on your SDG&E bill. Just grab that. I'll take a look, and then we can just go from there.
Cool. And then, so what would it look like? What will be the next steps?
So when you're on the doors, we have our door knocker cap on. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to get bills. So if someone goes and gets their bill, that's success. If you get 1 or 2 bills a day, that's a good day. Because from there, we're going to take a picture of the bar graph that shows how much power you used in the last 12 months. We send that off to a design team. They hit us back with a savings report, and then that's what we come present, and we come try to close the deal in about an hour after the door knock.
So what's like your average solar cost?
Cost for the homeowner?
Yeah.
So 99% of the deals I sell are a PPA, which is no cost. So we're essentially gonna give you the system, and then it's the same business model as SDG&E. So they provide the power lines, you buy power at their rates. We'll provide the panels. You're gonna buy power just at a lower rate. So say your bill's $400, you're paying 30 cents per kilowatt. You're using about 1,200 kilowatts. We'll give you that same 1,200 at 20 cents. Now your bill's $250, and you just spend that monthly for the same amount of power. No debt,
So-
no loan or anything like that.
So for people who have to like spend, there's not like you're not buying the panels or anything like that because there's leased, right? Leased
Right.
versus owned.
Yeah, so there's purchase, which you can do cash or a loan. There's lease, which I won't do because it's going to put a lien on your house and no one's happy there. Or there's the PPA. Very few people these days are doing purchases. It's just expensive. You need a battery. You're
Right.
taking on debt. Like, I don't push for it. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Otherwise, just do a PPA and drop your bill.
So with the PPA, what would be your commission on like an average house?
Yeah, so I tell people it's very similar to lending. They wrap up the loan and sell it off to a big bank. We're wrapping up solar and selling it off to a financing company. It's super interesting. I'm not sure if solar people are going to love that I'm willing to share this, but it is what it is. It's called the EPC structure. And so you choose how much your customer saves and you make X amount based on how much they're saving. So if I sell someone, the minimum rate is 18 cents on the financer we use pretty often. If I sell someone at 18 cents for a medium-sized system, I might make like $2,000. Now, if I sell that same homeowner at 30 cents, I might make like 15 for a medium system. I'd say the average is about $6,000 to $8,000. It just varies on system size and how high or low you sell somebody. I have a check for one deal coming next Monday for $34,000. So they get up there for sure, but that's going to be probably the only one above 30 for one deal that I get this year. So it's rare.
So do you have like do you know what your performance is? Like if you knock on X amount of doors, how many bills you're going to get? Can you reverse engineer that for me, like for a 30-day period?
Yeah. So a good month this year, I did 12 deals.
Okay.
I try to, it just varies, man. I mean, if I knock 100 doors, I like to think I'll get like 1 to 2 bills. Just edit that out. But some days you'll knock 100 and you'll just get punted and it's like you get nothing. You're getting yelled at. Like it is door-to-door sales.
Right.
And then other days you'll get 8 bills and 4 people that were dying for you to show up. So it's a numbers game, but the analytics are hard to track because it's just like different locations, different types of people. Like,
so how do you pick? So how many doors a month do you think you knock?
It depends. Saturdays are a great solar day, but if I have showings, even if it's just an hour, I just take care of my showings and go home.
Right.
But I also have people below me that rely on me to get out there with them and close their deals because I'm a closer. So if I knock the door, I come back. But then I have other people that if they knock the door, I come with them and help them close it.
On the second appointment.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And so, like on a good day, I'll try to consistently hit like 50. Because I get tired and it's not that fun, to be honest.
No, yeah,
so
it's exhausting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like someone knocked on my door not too long ago, and most of the time with solar, right, you're replacing the roof too. Like if the roof needs to get replaced or things like that. Like this was years ago though, so they were doing it was like just the buy and the lease.
Okay.
And then they wanted me to do my roof at the same time, and I was like, oh well, I just replaced my roof. Also, eventually my house is just going to get torn down, so it doesn't make sense for me to put in solar.
Yeah. I mean, if it needs a re-roof, we'll have to do it. I'm not going to upsell a re-roof. If your roof is within 15 years or so, you should be fine, and we'll just do the solar.
That's an interesting. So theoretically, because a lot of solar people make a shitload of money. Yeah. Not a lot, but like there's like a top 1%.
Just top like 1 to 3% make really, really good money.
Like you could very easily make $1 million a year being a door-to-door salesperson. Sounds like.
I could name about 5 people making over 100 a month. Yeah,
dude, that's crazy. How many doors do you think they knock every single month?
Some of them none. They just have a team of like 15 guys out knocking for them, and then they'll go close their deals.
Do they pay them hourly?
No, so they'll get half the deal. But if you get 15 guys and say 4 get bills in one day, and 3 are really good appointments, 1 fails credit, you get 2 that day, you just probably made like 15 grand, maybe 20, maybe 10, but for one day, pretty darn good.
Damn.
And then you send the same 15 guys out the next day, so.
It's interesting. I feel like these business models, you can look at them and like think shiny object, like, oh, the scalability of it. You look at these numbers. And I know a lot of people who like are in the real estate industry now. I have a close buddy, and he's kind of struggling where he's at. And he's mentioned it a couple times going into solar. And I'm sure Like you're sharing these numbers, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. But like you're knocking on doors. You're gonna get
Yeah.
beat up. I mean, it's almost
Yeah.
like worse than cold calling, in my opinion, because you can get told to fuck off on the phone, and I'm
Yeah.
good like walking away from that.
Yeah.
But like in person, if you're getting told to fuck off, it's like,
It's so rare. Like every once in a while, someone's like, "Fuck you, get off my door." For the most part, they got to say it to your face, though. So it's
Right.
like, are they really gonna do that? The door knocking itself is not an issue. If you know people struggling, like, of course, I'm willing to talk with them. I can link them with my manager, and
Totally.
off they go. But I think a lot of people, they'll say like only the $34,000 check. Like that's sweet, and it's good timing for me that I get to say it on a podcast. Like, go me. But last week was $3K.
Right.
No one's gonna say that one.
Right.
They always say like, look how much you can make, and they show the two guys that got a $40,000 check. It's gonna vary week to week, and you could very well go 8, 10, 15, 20 weeks no check.
it's a sales job.
You know.
Yeah.
So
And then you mentioned area. Like, how do you pick an area that you want to go and target and knock?
yeah, so you just look for saturation. San Diego's been hit by every Sunrun employee, 42 times. So you knock on my door, it's been knocked, 400 times. Like, just get off my property, please.
Right.
Central California, NorCal, the desert, they've been only hit maybe 4 or 5 times. And so if
Okay.
you're just the better sales rep that day, you're going to give yourself an opportunity. So you're just looking for areas that haven't been hit as much, but everyone in California has been hit at least once. Everyone knows something about solar, a friend that has a bad experience or whatnot. And so it's getting tougher. I don't want to say this with any sense of certainty, but I think there's 2 years left of solar sales in California.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. Remember, because you sent me that deal of that lady in Riverside, and I was trying to put that deal together, and I was like, man, this is so random. Like, why are you knocking all the way in like deep Riverside?
Yeah.
And by the way, she was like the sweetest lady.
Yeah,
and
she was.
It reminds me, I probably should try to call her again because
Yeah.
they missed a bunch of payments. So
Oh, did they?
yeah.
Yeah, she's struggling, and she was sweet. And
Yeah.
I said you were my cousin.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, just to make it easy and not like, oh, my investor buddy's going to come get a good deal. But
Yeah.
if she can't pay her bills, like, you can help her out. So
Do you get business from like when you're knocking for solar? Do you ever try to pitch for real estate? Or is that kind of like a weird like?
Not really, because it's like, oh, this solar rep. But some people think we just don't make any money. So they're like, this bum's now trying to get a real estate deal out of it. Like,
Right.
like it just seems like you're trying to be jack of all trades. And I haven't had a transition to like, well, I can sell your house, because
Right.
you get hit with that objection. Like, oh, we're selling in 3 months. That makes no sense.
You should
I-
just like
I don't
have
foresee it.
someone next to you where it's like, hey, just pass the referral over to like,
Yeah.
like,
I
oh,
could.
hey, do you need an agent?
Yeah.
Like, referral.
I've tried. It's just I have my solar hat on that day, and that's
Right.
just
No,
what
I
I'm
know.
doing, And
Yeah.
it's like solar is just much quicker money because I'm going knocking with one of my guys after this today. You could get a deal and get paid, in 3-4 weeks. Whereas real estate, it's like you gotta, have the relationship built. They got to go look for homes. So, if someone like is open to me being their realtor from their door, sweet. But I don't try too hard, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were talking about like when we were going to Starbucks, like quick money. Like for me, that's wholesaling, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, like I can lock up a deal and assign it, and if it's a quick close, I'm getting paid right away. Where if
Yep.
it's like a flip, it's 4 months down the road, and I'm not getting paid on it. Even though I'd prefer to flip, but like wholesaling is a means to flip.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to get into flipping with you.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to see even being invited on your podcast, like your progression and
Thanks,
where
bro.
like how many miles ahead you are. It's like, you're someone I could learn from, and you've done so many flips to the point where it's like, okay, my first one, if I do it with Josh, probably won't flop. But again, I've been in real estate, I know the risks. So it's
Yeah.
like,
You just got to, I mean, dude, deals are just bought right on the front.
yeah.
And that's it. Like if you buy it right on the front, you can fuck up in the middle,
Yeah.
and you can still fuck up at the end, and you'll
Yeah.
still be fine.
Yeah.
The only problem would be if you hit a black swan.
Yeah.
But as long if you buy the property in the beginning at a good enough margin,
Yeah.
if you go over budget by 10 to 15% in the middle of it,
Right.
and then if you don't sell it for what you thought you would,
Yeah.
you're still going to be okay. Like even if you break even on that deal, like it was a learning experience. Like especially for your
sure.
first one or first couple.
Are you, and maybe you don't know because you're doing so many, but have you taken any L's in like the last 2 years as you've been doing so many per month?
Mental L's.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with someone right now, dude, and like this guy pushes every single. So we're buying. It's $4.7 million. There's 2 deals. We're buying both of them, multi units. They're literally on like, you know where Vigalucci's and Carlsbad is?
No.
Okay, so
I'm
it's
inland.
on Coast High. They're on Coast Highway.
Okay.
So like a block away from the water.
Yeah.
They're both multi units. It was either all or nothing. I had to buy both or nothing. This guy has pushed every button I've possibly had.
Is it a partner or the owner?
The owner.
The owner?
Yeah. And it has just been like calls me every single day. Like I'm probably gonna cancel on him.
Really?
And it's solely because I'll make 200K on him, and I'm assigning him to someone else, and I'll make 200K. And I don't even want to like it's literally not worth the money because I'm not sleeping at night. Like I'm losing sleep over how awful this dude is. Mental L's.
How deep in the deal are you?
30 days
Like
in.
escrow and trying to assign, or?
No, it's already assigned. Yeah, they're already assigned.
Oh, but they need to close.
They're closing another 30 days. But it's just like it's dealing with him, having to handhold him. It's just it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, so I think sometimes it's not worth it if
not.
it's strenuous, because then you're going to be affected in other areas.
100%. No, I've been distracted. Yeah. Like the money's great, but if you're distracted and it's taking away from you to go get more deals, like it's just not a deal. You should just walk away, especially if you're not sleeping at night.
Yeah.
So
I'm 3 days of no sleep. So
yeah. Well, how can you sleep when you have someone in your house? So there's been a few situations that's been close. I've bought a couple deals, one of which was earlier this year, and it was really tight. I didn't buy it for the flip margin. I bought it because it was in city of San Diego. You could add 16 units to it, decent sized lot. How the lot was structured wasn't great. And it was just a single family house that was already remodeled. So I called a few people who are developers and who are in that space. They're like, yeah, bro, this thing will sell for $800 all day. So I bought it for, I think $550. And I didn't have to put any money into this thing. I was just going to relist it back on the market with drawings of like from ADU Geeks.
Okay.
And put it right back on, and projected profit was $800K. So I'd probably make like $150 on it. And I put it on, we listed it. I think we ended up listing, we got an offer instantly for $800K.
Nice.
2-day inspection period, 15-day close. The buyer fully ghosted us and ended up canceling that deal. I had to do price reductions all the way down to 630.
Oh man. So
and
broke even, or?
I ended up walking away with like, I think $30K.
That's like break even in your mind.
It was break even. So I accepted another offer at 630. That one I would have lost money. Or I would have like made 10K. And then we put it back on the market because that one canceled, and I ended up getting like 655.
Nice.
So just a learning experience that, like, when I was just saying, buying deals right up front is so important.
Yeah.
And buying like wholesale deals, even though it's a wholesale deal, there still needs to be enough margin to where, even because most buyers these days, they like remodeled properties. They like hooked up houses.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to sell a house that's not as hooked up as their competition, even if it's a little bit under market value, you're probably going to get beat up more.
Yeah.
And so, I just did another one in Escondido, and thankfully we're in escrow, but I'm walking away with like $30K on a $700,000 purchase. Yeah. It's like, that's not good business, right? Because if the market switches up a little bit, $30K is 3%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like very easily could have lost money on that very quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be a little smarter on buying tighter deals. So like if I am going to wholesale something, and for people that don't know, wholesale is you're still flipping it, but it doesn't need a ton of work. Right. Very minimal. Like if I can paint, carpet, stage, that's pretty much a wholesale, and then put it right back on the market. I'm being a little bit more cautious with those. I need them still at a decent enough flip margin for those to make sense. Yeah. So
I'm curious. Obviously, I want to get into flipping and rentals and everything. Is there things you're looking for, whether it's market, news, whatever, to where you're like, okay, maybe I pump the brakes on this type of investing, or are you waiting like, I've made profit on 42 deals. I just took my first L. Maybe it's like trending the other way and I hold off. Like, what is your gauge on potentially slowing down?
So it's a business, so I can't slow down, right? And I have employees and marketing and things like that. To me, the way I look at it is just pivoting. So
Okay.
with the market over the last 30 days has shifted. So like the deals that I used to be able to assign, I used to be able to assign them at a certain percentage. Now that things have shifted, I have to get properties lower than what I was getting them before because
Right.
the market's changed.
Yeah.
So it's just bobbing and weaving through that. Right now, for example, like I do have more flips. I do have a lot of flips, and I am assigning a lot. But I'm not going to buy anything like between now and the end of the year. I'm not buying long, big remodels because I don't want to be on the market in the fourth quarter of this year.
Yeah.
Right. So anything that I'm closing on now, I want it to be on the market before September. So
Okay.
I'm doing quicker remodels.
Yeah.
I'm only taking down those types of deals, and I'm making sure that my numbers make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I'm budgeting in. In terms of rentals, the way that I look at rentals now is I'm not forcing any deals. So like if
Yeah.
something lands on my lap and it's a good enough deal and I'm getting it, like the one in Escondido that we just got, honestly, I ran that thing 14 different times to try to make that thing make sense for a rental because we got it at such a good deal and it didn't need much work.
Yeah.
I was still going to be negative, like $2,500 a month, like even if I refied.
Yeah.
And in order for me to have it pencil as like a cash flowing asset, I would have had to put 150K down.
Yeah.
So right now, when it comes to rentals, the only way I'm going to buy something is probably towards the end of the year, and really just to get rid of some taxable income.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of like my strategy with rentals, and then with like flips, like again, it's just bobbing and weaving. I think we all go like the market. We are a seasonal market, so like wintertime does get slower, right? January gets slower. So when I'm buying things, I want to buy and close in the appropriate time where it lines up for seasonality.
Yeah.
Or I just need to get a good enough deal to where it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think you seem to be doing a good job of buying it at the right price. So your options are more open. I know flippers that take L's, and
Right.
it's like you just had to have bought it too high. But as I'm learning hands on, the rental thing is tough. Like
is.
especially like once rates ticked up and prices are freaking expensive, like mine wouldn't anywhere near cash flow right now.
Right.
And so it's like I'm gonna build an ADU. You just have to be strategic, and even then, may or may not break even or cash flow.
Yeah, and that's too like I've been looking at multifamily and things like that, and I'm trying to understand that space a little bit more. Like anything, kind of going into like 8+ units.
Yeah.
The scalability now that I've been able to scale the flipping and wholesaling side, I've been able to raise money very easily for my flips.
Yeah.
And now having relationships with these private guys who have become close friends of mine, like good friends who I can call and I would love to go into business with.
Yeah.
The scalability of going into now multifamily and then having these big exits, multi-7-figure exits after you go buy these things, redevelop or remodel, get them stabilized, and then sell at a bigger price and then go 1031 that money into the next deal.
Yeah.
And that's like some serious long-term cash. Like that's retirement plan shit,
Yeah. Dude, that's gnarly and that's cool, man. I hope I can watch you do it and you document it well on social media so I can live vicariously. But I did a syndication deal where it's so nice to not have the stress of like the numbers and the exit strategy and the purchase price and the refi. Like worst case scenario, my money sits there and I get exactly the same amount back. But we're refining in 2 years and I get about $8,000 back tax free. So worst case, I just turn $8,000 tax free and then I break even. But it's nice not having to stress about it because I'd imagine once you go for the 8, 10, 15 unit things, like you're probably gonna be stressed. I would think, maybe not.
Maybe. You'd be surprised. Like I explained this the other day to someone because I have a lot of stress. Like even my girls all the time, like tell me, they're like, I don't know how you handle like 50 phone calls or all this shit going on all the time. And I'm always distracted or have something going on. But I think stress is like a muscle memory. Like you go to the gym, you go lifting, right? On the bench press, you're slowly increasing weight. You're slowly getting stronger.
Yeah.
I think stress is the same thing. Like you're slowly getting better at being able to handle more and more stress. And ultimately, the more stress that you're dealing with, the more money you should ultimately make.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think
true.
that is a direct correlation to your finances.
Yeah.
And more money, more problems, right? Like I think that's truly is something that you can just get better at handling over time. And that's something I'm trying to work on. Like there's certain times where like you just get better at handling it. Yeah, I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, I think so. I think the guy that's like on his couch watching TV, not stressed, probably isn't like flipping homes and like doing really well, you know? But I'm with you. I mean, I think we're in the same boat. Like we don't have W-2s, so it's
Right.
like we're kind of on our own. And I think our hearts rate a little, like, you know, a little bit faster than someone with a 2-week paycheck. But I think we chose the lifestyle for a reason and the opportunity ahead. So, you know, I have no regrets.
I mean, dude, there's been times, and I'll say this though, obviously with title, I retired in April. That job, I had so much freedom, you know, still was making, you know, really good money. I think my biggest year was just under 300K.
Yeah.
And chilling, playing Call of Duty during the week, right? Like I could go out for happy hour and have margaritas with clients or friends or like whatever. I could go on vacation and no one would really know that I was remote.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said this in another podcast. It was like, I was just living my life and I had so much freedom.
Yeah.
And when you become a business owner, you're free. You don't have freedom anymore, right? Your freedom, your business it becomes everything. And I used to work for freedom.
Yeah.
And now I don't work for freedom because I won't have freedom for a long time. So it's kind of interesting, except for financial freedom. That's the only difference would be like, I can afford to do, I mean, I could afford a lot then, but like I can afford way more now.
Yeah.
But
and it's give and take. I think, you know, the house I bought is like 4 doors down from where I used to rent, and I was in a granny flat behind someone else's house. It was 1,400, and I could chill. I could do no marketing, no cold calling, nothing, and I knew my bills were getting paid. I'd have some extra for investments. If I sit on my ass all day, like I'll get enough referrals to pay 1,400 in rent, you know. And I traded that for just way more stress. I 3.5x my monthly just for where I live, but I know it's gonna lead, you know, somewhere better. You know, as long as you know the historical growth of the real estate market kind of does the, you know, future thing. But you know, I traded it in for more stress, and I would almost recommend to people to do the same, because I think without it, if you're just chilling, like where would you really go?
Right.
You know,
someone told me a long time ago. This was before I ever rented a place. I was looking at a rental to get my own place. This is like my first rental that I ever got when I was younger. And someone close to me was like, "Yeah, you should put yourself in debt because it will make you work harder.
yeah,
And you'll go grind as hard as you can so that you can go afford the shit that you have. And if you don't put yourself in debt, you're never gonna go and want to work hard at something bigger." And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know, like if I really agree. Like getting into a bunch of credit card debt, probably not what I think he meant by that, right? But like, I kind of get the concept.
I think we had the same thing on the last podcast,
we?
because I think I remember bringing up it's very similar to what Ryan Serhant says. He's like, if I got pre-approved for a $4 million house, I'm gonna go buy a $6 million house, tie up the extra $2 million in cash, so I have to be able to afford it. I don't know about the credit card thing. Like, I get the gist of what he's saying though, and I believe in it. I think if you give yourself more overhead than you're comfortable with, you're gonna find a way to be comfortable if that's what you're trying to do.
Right. I didn't buy the car that I bought now, when I was going in to go get a new car from trading in my old one, and my payment on my old car was like $450 a month. And when I went to the dealership, they were like, you know, obviously giving me what my car payment would be on the Porsche. And in my head, I was like, man, I'm like 4 times like what I'm paying now. Like, can I even afford this? Like, I was kind of laughing about it. And I was like, well, yeah, but like, I don't know, you know, like I didn't know what I didn't know until I got it. And I was like, well, yeah, I can afford it because I was making a lot of money, but it's just kind of funny because you put yourself in those situations. You think it's a lot of money until you start being able to afford it. Like your house, right?
Yeah.
Was like 4 times your expenses, but you're able to afford it.
Yeah.
So, but it's like that mental hurdle that you're trying to get over
Right.
from your cheap rent that you had before.
Yeah, I think it just puts you in a different headspace. I woke up the first month or two, I was like, I got to get to work, dude.
Yeah,
And so again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, as a real estate agent, I'm willing to have a second job to where if I'm having like a slow week, slow month, I have something else I can go do, and it
Right.
doesn't force me to cold call and just be miserable all day. So
For sure.
I definitely turned the jets on, and I have a good network, of people that like you that I can learn from, or other people in the exact same position as me. And I got a group that I actually invited you to that you were too top tier to be in there, but
I'm not.
I have a group of 10 people that we're doing a challenge to make X amount in quarter 3, and I think when you give yourself a bigger overhead or more challenges in front of you, you're gonna find people to like, okay, let's get this done. You're not gonna put yourself with people that are just on chill mode.
Right. I love that. Yeah, being a part of masterminds is like huge.
Yeah.
And I love being a part or being around high level people that think way differently than I do. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this fucker like thinks way bigger. Like I'm thinking small compared to what this guy thinks. And my coach the other day was talking to me in terms of like revenue numbers of like what we'll do. Like we're already planning for next year.
Nice.
And he like mentioned the revenue numbers, and I was just like, what did you just say? I'm like,
You didn't go Grant Cardone and 10x it.
I was like, I couldn't even like, he said what he said, and I kind of like got off the Zoom, and I was like, all right, this is what we're going for.
Let's go, bro.
But
That's awesome, man.
yeah, it's just kind of funny.
Can we share the number off?
10 million.
10 mil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 million in revenue. Yeah, we're shooting. We should have a 7-figure month in September.
Wow, good for you, bro.
Yeah.
Is that your first 7-figure month?
Yes.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah,
That's
we
incredible.
hit $500,000 this last month.
Nice.
I've hit multiple of those. I did like a 4 or 3, and then last year I did like a 6.
Damn.
And then yeah, we have like 1.5 in the pipeline right now to close.
Nice. Good
So,
for you, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, bro. It's
That's
third quarter
insane.
should be big. Yeah,
That's insane, man.
yeah.
I remember my first 6-figure month, and it's like it's almost unfathomable thinking of 7. It's like, how in the fuck can I 10x that? But I have some tricks up my sleeve. We're working.
Dude, to be honest, like when I feel like when we're younger, we're always like, all right, I just want to make 5K a month, right?
Yeah.
And then it's 10, and then it's 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? You're like incrementally going up. But there's a point where like if you don't focus on the income and you just focus on the activity,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you hit one of those big ass months,
Yeah.
you finally believe in yourself that you can make as much as you want to make. And
For
that
sure.
was my big aha moment when last year obviously I did multiple 6-figure months.
Yeah.
When I hit a $500,000 month, I was like, whoa, this is possible. The only thing that I need to do is reverse engineering my marketing and my team and all these
Right.
different things,
Yeah.
and it's scalable.
Yeah.
And once you create simplicity out of a business model that just creates revenue,
Yeah.
it becomes easier to like not think that this is like some crazy outlandish goal.
Right. And I just got to commend you because I've known you for a while. I know I worked with Brianna more directly when you were
Yeah.
title, but
Yeah.
when you went from, I think you said you made 200-300K a year in title 1 year, to go from that to making double, triple that in a month, like you haven't changed whatsoever. And I think
No, I
that's
haven't.
super cool,
Yeah.
and quite possibly pretty rare, other than, your watch getting a little nicer, like you've stayed the same, which is super cool.
Yeah. I think you gotta keep the same roots. I mean, there's definitely people who I stopped spending a lot of time with. I mean, one of the things that I had to change pretty quickly from last year to the years previous is dude, I love to go out to dinner and drink and hang out and like,
Don't we all?
party a little bit. And I was doing that a lot, like the years previous, like 2022, I was, drinking a lot and hanging out with people who like just weren't great, I don't know how to explain that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I had to slow down on like the drinking and going out, even though I'm a little hungover today, but going out and like drinking and like getting myself into like a little bit of trouble, because I feel like once you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Like now my decision-making skills, like today, for example, like I have multiple calls where like I'm making offers, or if I'm spending money on marketing, or like deals or sellers or whatever it is, I literally won't want to make calls today because I won't want to make the wrong decision or go into contract on deals where I'm like, maybe I'll get aggressive today and be like, oh, let's overpay for something by 20, 30, 40,000.
Yeah.
And so it makes it a little like you just got to change a little bit. But like, that's the only thing that I think that I've truly changed is just like my surroundings a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in
Mindset,
I'm in the same boat. I've had my challenges with drinking for sure. And then like I haven't fully quit, but I definitely have slowed down a lot just because I'm at a point where my real estate clients, my solar customers, my solar team, I can't wake up the next day and drop the ball for one of them.
Right.
So every day, the day before, even today, I'm thinking about tomorrow. Like, what can I not do today to make sure I don't fuck up tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure.
So just definitely always keeping that type of stuff in mind.
Yeah. And I'm not going to drink. I'm just like, I limit it more. Like, I think now it's probably like a couple days a month.
Yeah.
Where like, before it was probably like 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, of the 5, 3 of those were like shit faced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like having to come home and Ubering and just not being mentally there. But that's also when I was entitled where I could sleep in and no one would know where I was all day.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to get to a point to where it's just like vacations and special occasions because again, there's just too much I could drop the ball on the next day.
For sure.
And I'm 29. The hangovers are like 2 days for me now, so it's not hitting the same as it used to.
I feel you on that. Anything else you want to touch on before we?
No, this was cool. Again, I was just honored to be on, dude.
Yeah,
like you have someone so prestigious hit you up for their podcast. Like it's super cool. So
I know we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, we have been. But no, thanks for having me on, dude. Cool. I mean, I love rubbing shoulders with you and learning from you. So however often I can do it, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you at?
Big on Instagram, Jared Lawrence SD. I'm sure you'll post it somewhere. Trying to get the podcast and YouTube going again. But mostly Instagram for sure.
Love it. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, subscribe, add a review, and we will see you on the next episode. Peace.